Hey everybody, this is TJR.
And this is Superfan.
And today we're going to talk about the documentary film, Jeff Buckley, It's Never Over, which we saw a few days ago. We haven't had a chance to talk about it till now though. And in a way I'm kind of glad, because when I walked out of the theater, I think I said to you, this is probably one of the strongest music documentary films that I have probably ever seen.
I agree with that.
At the time though, I did wonder though if that wasn't just kind of the what I call fresh out of the theater kind of glow. Sometimes movies can do that. They can like emotionally hit you, push your buttons in the right way. And I know this is a documentary and not a movie, but documentaries can do that too. There is a filmmaker, making this film, and while there are certain artistic licenses they can't take because it's not a movie or a biopic, it is an actual documentary film, there are ways that they can hit your emotional buttons. And I thought, maybe I won't feel quite as strongly about it a few days later, once I've had a chance to get over that just out of the movie theater glow you sometimes feel.
Afterglow, so to speak.
Exactly, and there's nothing wrong with that, because that's part of the reason why we go to movies, is to have us feel things. We go to comedies to laugh, we go to horror movies to get scared, we go to sad movies to cry, and documentary films can do this too. But now that it's been a few days, I feel like this was just a really emotionally strong movie, documentary or not. A very emotionally strong film. And I think it was emotionally strong without being manipulative.
Yeah.
And it did it in all the right ways.
Yeah.
Because you can't avoid the tragedy of this story any more than you can avoid the tragedy of, say, Vincent van Gogh if you do a documentary about him. Who knows how much more music he might have created and released? Who knows? And you can't help but think about that when you think about Jimi Hendrix. He was getting more amazing with each album.
Yeah.
Who knows what might have happened had he not died? Who knows where he would have taken things? And I certainly always ask these types of questions when it's this type of a situation. But let's talk about the film here. I remember after I talked about the trailer, I had a couple commenters who said, well, we've already got 2 Jeff Buckley documentaries already. Why do we need more? And I was not aware that at that time that there were any other documentaries, so I looked them up. And they were both about maybe an hour in length. They both felt more, I didn't watch them, but just their length made me think these were probably TV documentaries.
MTV type of things.
Yeah. And those aren't necessarily, I'm not saying those are bad also, because there were some good like VH1 Behind the Music documentaries and things like that. There were certainly, good films made with that. But
it's a different vibe.
It's a different vibe, and also these other shorter films I don't think had any real input or much input from the people that we have in this documentary.
Yeah.
And in this documentary, everybody who's interviewed knew him, had some interaction with him. First and foremost, we've got his mother, who raised him, who was the most important person in his life. He had a famous father, but he never really knew him. He knew him for 1 week, and that was it. They talked to his 2 partners that he had in his lifetime, the 2 women that he had in his life, and each of them talk in great detail about him as a person, about him as a musician, about his talent. And One of those women was a musician herself that had her own band. You also have commentary from other musicians. And at first, I thought this was going to be like so many other documentaries where you have different musicians talk about the musician who is the subject of the film, and they give their thoughts, they give their praise, but they also give their musical analysis of why they were good. And at first I thought that's what this was going to be, but then you find out that in each case, these musicians actually had interaction with him, personal interaction with him, were friends with him, and it gives you a whole different perspective because they're not an outsider talking about them. And then we also talk to all of his bandmates. All his bandmates talk about him as well. Everybody that's interviewed, everybody that was interviewed in this documentary knew him on some level. Even the music industry people that talk had interactions with him, knew him. So you have it's a very personal film. I'm going to ask you a question here.
Okay.
What would you say impressed you the most about this film?
The thoroughness of just getting all the information that she possibly could.
Yes, this talks about everything. I mean, everything. And it starts, of course, with his father, whom I didn't think at first they were going to really talk about. Because Jeff Buckley didn't like being compared to his father. He didn't know his father. In fact, in an interview, Amy Berg mentions that you can't call Jeff Buckley a Nepo baby because his father didn't do anything for him. Certainly not as far as his music career. No. He had to do all that himself. So it starts with him, and I realize now after I watched it,
and
it
actually,
has to.
He would have been highly insulted that anybody call him a Nepo baby.
Oh yeah.
That would have horrified him.
Oh yeah. And he hated being compared to his father. And there is a scene, of course, which is in the trailer where an interview says, "What do you think you inherited from your father?" I mean, he's probably referring to like maybe talent. But Buckley just says, "The people who remember my father." Next question. And that's how much consideration he gives that question. It was a brilliant answer. But I hear what you're saying, though, because, like you said, the film starts by talking about his father, which once I saw it, I realized, you can't not talk about this.
Yeah.
Because the lack of a father plays a big role on his life, too.
Yeah.
Along with the presence
isn't there
of his mother, who's a huge influence on his life. How could she not be?
Yeah.
And who, as he says numerous times in the film, because there's lots of archival interview with him, he mentions that his mother was always there believing in him, believing in what he could do.
Yeah.
And it's tremendous, the influence, the amount of importance that she has on his life. They talk about everything. They talk about his childhood. They talk about his earliest musical influences, his stepfather introducing him to Led Zeppelin, which he would always say was his greatest influence. They also talk about influences that I was not aware of. But once I heard, I said, oh yeah, like Nina Simone.
Yeah.
I've known who Nina Simone is, but never really listened to her.
And hearing them side by side.
Yeah. You like, oh, okay, I get it now. I get it. I mean, I could hear the Robert Plant, but now I hear the Nina Simone. And then there was an Indian singer whose name escapes me. There was another huge influence on him. And the moment you hear him singing, and then hear
it too. Yeah.
Jeff Buckley, oh yeah, I totally get this. Yeah, I totally get this. Getting back to your comment, beyond, of course, then there's the childhood, but beyond that, it talks about his high school. We see footage of some of his early bands. There's a great piece of footage where they're playing the police, covering a police song.
And he still did very like Sting.
Yes, and Ben Harper comments on that when he's watching the footage. It covers, it covers everything from his time at Cafe Cine, if I say it right, in New York. Chenet, thank you. I knew I'd mispronounce it. I mispronounce it every time I play that album, because he worked at this cafe called Chenet, a little hole-in-the-wall cafe that only could hold like maybe 20, 30 people. And he would serve drinks there, he would do dishes, and he would occasionally get up and perform too. And after a while, people started lining up to see him perform. And that's what kind of got him the record label attention. That was one of the things. The other thing was, of course, that he was asked to perform at an anniversary
It was a
memorial for his father, which he didn't want to do. But his mother said, no, go to it, you know. And she encouraged him because she said there might be a lot of really important people there, and you want to be a musician, you want to make it in this business. There might be a lot of people there that will see you, that will recognize your talent and might help you. And there were people there that took notice of him, that were in the industry, and
he left there, he said, with 50 business cards.
So she was right. She was right encouraging him to do that. You're right. It talks about everything. It talks about the record contract. It talks about why he went with the label that he went with. My goodness. Yeah, it talks about the tours, the band members. It talks about the recordings of the second album before his passing. It talks about that.
Yeah.
It talks about his experiences on the road, his experiences meeting other famous musicians. It's pretty wild. You're right. It's so thorough. I don't think you could ask for a more thorough documentary. And
granted, there is not a lot of information out there because his career was so short.
Yeah, it was a short career, but there is no filler in this film.
No.
Everything is just like
it doesn't feel long either.
No, it doesn't feel long either. No. But it is also heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Heartbreakingly sad. He does go through a dark period where he basically kind of has a bit of he has a psychotic break. And then he comes out of it realizing that he's manic depressive and ready to make music again. And because he felt so much pressure, Grace got so much critical praise. It didn't do well in the United States, but it was huge in Europe. And he got so much critical praise around the world for it. Still continues to this day. Except now it's probably more accepted here in America. That was another thing. I had people, when I talked about the trailer, I mentioned that, most of the time when I talk to people about music and I bring up Jeff Buckley, they don't know who he is. Until maybe I bring up Hallelujah. Then they're like, oh, that guy. Because I bring up his cover of Hallelujah and they've heard it.
Yeah.
And I had people comment saying, what do you mean? Everybody knows Jeff Buckley. It's like, no, I don't think so. Maybe those were European commenters. I don't know. But most of the people I talk to, they're maybe mild music fans, which is interesting that that's most of the people I talk to, but that's probably family, relatives, that sort of thing.
Well, and I think that there's something, an artist like this, that's a musician's musician, is found by the musicians, and then they talk about it, and the legend grows.
Got it. Yeah, that might be it. Yeah.
Because I found out about them when you two mentioned them in a radio interview, which they played a bit of here too.
You might have a point there. I think just it's probably might surprise people though that even though the audience of this channel is really into music, a lot of the people I just talk to in my everyday life, music's kind of they like some things, but they're just, I would say they're kind of
what they like.
They're just kind of mild music fans.
They're not hunting.
Yeah, they're not hunting like I am, like we are. But anyways, though, I just think this was an amazing film. It does hit a lot of very emotional powerful chords, no pun intended. It will hit your buttons. How could it not? But it's all very real. It's all very emotionally honest. And I think that's what I got the most out of watching this. I think if there's one thing I took away, it's just how emotionally honest Jeff Buckley was. As a musician, as a songwriter, as a person, whenever he would talk to media, yes, he wanted to be a professional musician. He wanted to be a recording artist. But at the same time, he wasn't always sure about the whole fame thing, but he accepted it as kind of like you have to take the bad with the good. Or the questionable with the good might be a better way to say it. He really did struggle with the yin and yang of fame. And anyways, though, great film. And I would recommend this film, even if you're just sort of might say, well, I'm not into that music. I would still recommend it just for the story.
Definitely.
Yeah. And I also would recommend it if maybe you just kind of are casually familiar, even if maybe all you've heard is Hallelujah. Of course, I can't imagine the audience of this channel or anybody watching this video, I would think they'd probably already be into it at this point. But yeah, even if you're just casually familiar, I would say go see this film. This is a great film. Oh, and one other thing I should mention is that before the film actually started, there was a brief little intertitle telling the audience that once the movie is over, please don't leave. We've got some, I believe they said never before seen, restored footage of Jeff Buckley performing live, solo. And so after the film credits closed, there was roughly a 20 to 30 minute of live footage, obviously, like they said, restored film footage and audio. Sounded great. There were a few moments where the video actually dropped out for a moment. I'm guessing something happened, so the original film was damaged in some way, but they had all the audio. And so there were a few moments like that where that happened. But a really amazing 20 to 30 minute performance. So I just thought I'd mention that to you. At any rate, though, if you have the chance to see this in a theater, please do. I was talking to one of my nephews who said he really wants to see it, but there's no theater, that isn't like over 100 miles away that he can go to. And I said, just wait for it to come out on streaming. It is an HBO film, so it clearly will be coming to Max, once it's had its theatrical run. You'll probably see it there very soon. Be sure to catch it. Anyways, though, let us know if you've seen the film. Let us know what you think. Let us know if you're planning to see the film. And a big thank you to the patron supporters. Patron supporters do receive exclusive videos not available on this channel.
You're mighty.
Yes. But mostly thank you for watching. Very soon you're going to see some links for some other videos I have created that I think you might enjoy. Hopefully you'll check those out. And we'll see you all in the next video, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.